Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 2020 guest speaker series for the candidates for Seminole County Supervisor of Elections. That'll be Deborah Paulion, Lynn Moira Dichter for Tax Collector, and Tracy Kagan for House District 49.
29.
Oh, I'm sorry, 29. I have it written down as 29. I apologize. So what this event is going to be focused on is those three candidates and those particular offices that they're running for. This is going to be a forum style event, so that way they can answer any questions that you may have, and also have them tell us about their aspirations for the office. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Deborah Paulion.
Hey, my name is Deborah Paulion. I am running for Seminole County Supervisor of Elections. And we haven't had two people on the ballot in Seminole County for Supervisor of Elections since 2006. That's a long time. So the person who's there now was actually appointed at the beginning of 2019. So it's his first election too. So I'm not going to mince words with this group. I'm running for Supervisor of Elections because I want to do things different than they're being done now. I do not approve of the way things are being done now. There are too many things that could be done to make voting easier in Seminole County that are not being done. So if you live in Orange County or Osceola County or maybe some other county, often you have better access to voting than we do here. You'll have vote by mail that's paid, your postage paid. You'll have more early voting hours. For example, Seminole County is the red bar at the bottom, Osceola and Orange are at top. This is for the primary elections in August, the early voting days and hours available. So as you can see, they have double the access that Seminole County does. And there's many other things that I would like to do differently. So that's why I'm running. And why do I think I can do these things different is because I have the right skills for this. I have a master's degree in mass communication. I'm a data analyst at the Institute of Internal Auditors. I actually made the extra effort to earn my internal audit practitioner designation recently. So I am ready to serve Seminole County. I've lived here a long time, and I'm really honored to be here with Matt and Brandon, and look forward to the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. So I do have a question for you. What steps will you take to increase your office's visibility with the LGBTQ plus community, including encouraging voter participation?
That's a good question. So I very much enjoyed being at the Sanford Pride event earlier this year, and there was no voter registration presence from the Supervisor of Elections. So, you know, I think that they can simply make some efforts to be at community events that LGBTQ community is involved in, and also host more training for third-party voter registration organizations. It's actually really easy to be a third-party voter registration organization that can help other people register to vote. And so I would encourage any group to do that and make voter registration easier for their members.
Sounds good. Thank you, Deborah. One other question I did have for you is, do you support expanding access to vote by mail?
Absolutely, yes. And especially in Seminole County, you know, yes, it's free to sign up to vote by mail, but you have to find a stamp to mail it in. The postage, you don't get a postage paid envelope like they do right across the border in Orange. So I think it's really important that the postage is paid. And then in Seminole County, you know, it's probably one follows the other. So our vote by mail participation is lower than in other counties, possibly because it's not as easy because you don't have the postage paid. So we are like between 20 and 25% signed up to vote by mail. Now just think about that. If you're not signed up to vote by mail, you can't vote by mail. So we've got 3/4 of our people that are going to vote in person in August at this point. So there needs to be more done to get people to sign up and to realize that if you sign up to vote by mail, you're not required to vote by mail, but you have that option. And so current law says, I'm checking my calendar, cutting my eyes over. August 8th is your last day to sign up to vote by mail. So, and the election's on the 18th. So what that means is you could find yourself in a position where you don't want to go out within that 10 days. And if you haven't signed up to vote by mail, it's too late, it's too bad. So I strongly support increasing our vote by mail registration in Seminole County. I don't know if Brandon's talking, but I can't hear.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I was having a little trouble unmuting myself. So there's another question that came in from, let's see, Leslie Guerra. Can you make sure that people know how to sign up for vote by mail?
Yes. Well, one way, there's more than one way to do it, but I think one thing to remember about voting by mail is it's handled at the county level. So you know, to register to vote, you can actually go to the state website, you can register to vote, but those vote by mail lists are handled by your county. So everything eventually is going to get funneled to voteseminole.org. That's where you sign up to vote by mail. However, if you want to go to my website, because it has a lot of voting information, including my own FAQs on vote by mail, please go to deb4elections.com, deb4elections, because that's a really quick way to get the information and then get the link to go ahead and sign up to vote by mail.
Okay. We have another question incoming from Christine Kraus. I heard that the registered Democrats are catching up to the registered Republicans. Do you know the current totals or approximate number?
I know that the gap has just gotten to less than 1,000. And my last recollection on the numbers were like 112,000-ish for Dems and 114,000-ish for Republicans. So obviously the gap is closed. But I think one of the big things to remember about Seminole County is we have about 90,000 people who are registered as no party affiliation or one of the minor parties. So, you know, people have dug in their heels. You know, if you're a Democrat, you're voting blue. You might not vote all the way down to my race, but I really wish you would. And if you're Republican, you're probably voting red, and you're probably going to vote the whole way down to the bottom of your ballot. So, you know, because regardless of who wins the election, you want people's voices to be heard. I think that really a lot more outreach needs to be done to people who are not registered with one of the major parties. I think they get left behind because major parties don't target them with as much information. So I think it's as important as a supervisor of elections to say that their vote is very valuable, even though I don't know which way it's going to go. So that's a very good question. Thank you.
You. And Deborah, I actually had a follow-up to the question that I had asked you earlier about vote by mail. So currently, the current state of Florida voter registration form has 12 required fields. Vote by mail is not one of those required fields. Would you support and be vocal about amending the state of Florida voter registration form to include a yes or no checkbox for voters to sign up to vote by mail?
That's a very good point, and it causes us a lot of extra effort, because when we sign somebody up to vote by mail, we always have, I mean, to register to vote, we have them fill out the vote by mail form separate. So philosophically, I agree. It makes a lot of sense just to streamline it and have it on the voter registration form. But I have never looked into the legal side of that to see if that will make sense. So I hesitate to say that I can support it on the voter registration form until I know for sure that it's a legal possibility, but I like the idea. I will say that. And the other thing that we've gone away from is when you vote by mail, you used to have a checkbox on the envelope that said to sign up again for the next cycle. And that's gone now. So you have to redo your vote by mail every 2 years or it expires. So I think that instead of making it easier, it's getting harder again, and that's the thing that's not good. at all.
All right. Thank you, Deborah. Do we have any other questions for Deborah Paulion? I'll give everybody a couple of seconds to chime in. All right, thank you. So also, if you do remember that you have a question for Deborah, you can also use the raise your hand feature and ask it in the Q&A section as well. All right, thank you, Deborah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up we have Lynn Moira Dichter, who is running for the office of Seminole County Tax Collector.
Hey everyone, thank you for inviting me to the Rainbow Democrats. This is old home week for me, coming to speak to the Rainbow Democrats of Orange County, and I guess they cover this chapter covers Seminole County as well. I am running for Seminole County Tax Collector because I have watched for the last couple of decades as a Seminole County resident, one occupant of that office after another systematically harm and waste money of the hard-earned families and neighbors and small business owners of Seminole County. The current incumbent, or I should say the former incumbent, because it's been a wild week to be running for Seminole County Tax Collector. If you have been under a rock or have not spotted the news recently, within the last 6 days, the former occupant of my race, the Seminole County Tax Collector, has been arrested and indicted and resigned in disgrace and then dropped out of the race altogether for re-election. This character has been in the news way more than you should as a tax collector. One of the things I always say is that tax collectors should be like wallpaper. You shouldn't know anything about them very much until you write your check to them or get your driver's license renewed. But in the case of Seminole County, we haven't had that luxury. We haven't had someone who was a good steward of our tax money. And that's why I decided that I would do the bravest thing I've ever done, and that is run for office in Seminole County. I've lived here 36 years. My kids went to public school all through here. And I was on the radio. I was a media pundit, a news reporter for decades, watching from a bird's eye view of what was going on in Seminole County. And when it was time for me to have another chapter of my career, of my life, I decided to listen to that inner voice, which said, I wanted to give something back. I wanted to make the community where I grew up and raised my family a better place than I found it. And this was the way to do it. Now, I often say that the prior occupant of this race, the prior tax collector, made it pretty easy to make that choice. Because every time he was in the news for pulling someone over, pretending to be a cop, or trying to hack into our data and trying to ransom it back for his own personal gain, or giving cushy job contracts to his family and friends, every time he was in the news for something awful, I thought, Joel, you're making it very easy to get this, to make a change in Seminole County. This year more than ever, it is important to get women elected, to get Democrats elected, and to have a wave of support. And Deborah mentioned it before, voting down the ballot from the top of the president to Congress to the state races, and then and only then will you see the races that we're in, the county-wide races in Seminole County. It's an exciting and exhilarating and petrifying journey that it is to run for office in this county for this job. I am thrilled to do it. It is invigorating, and it's changed so much since the pandemic's been in place, because politics is completely on its ear now. You can't go have house parties, you can't go to rallies, you can't go to big events, you can't shake people's hands at a farmer's market because there are no, you're not out there in the public that much anymore, right? So now we have had to morph our campaign into a digital kind of approach. So I do every single day at 4:30 a Facebook Live little chat called Couch Chat. Actually, today was my 99th episode in a row. So if you haven't had a chance to drop in, drop on in. Tomorrow is a big whoop-de-doo day. It's 100 episodes. So that's a big damn deal. So we are going to, that's how we're talking to voters in Seminole County. Yes, we're doing postcards. Yes, we're making phone calls. Yes, we're raising money. But we're doing this kind of virtual chat with the Rainbow Democrats or other subgroup, groups around town, so that they know that there are active, passionate women, in this case, the three of us on this call tonight, who want to make the community, the state, the county better. And that's why I decided to do it. I decided to run, and I've always had a great support group with the Rainbow Democrats, and I'm just glad that you invited me, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yep.
So one question that we have is, would you condemn instances of hate speech in your office and the community at large?
Absolutely. I have been a minority group my whole life. I'm a Jewish person, and I have experienced anti-Semitism. My family has a lot of my stepbrother died of AIDS before my daughter was born. She is named after Bobby. Her name is Robin. And so it is so important for me, whether it is against African Americans, against Jewish people, against the LGBTQ community. That's my family. And I am the first one out there to say unacceptable, not happening. The former occupant of my office put all kinds of anti-Muslim, Islamophobic kind of stuff all over his social media page, so badly that he had to hire a babysitter to make sure that his social media was cleaned up and he didn't tweet in the middle of the night like the guy in the White House. So I don't know. Yes, of course I would stand up, because if you say something about some other group, you're saying something about me. And that's how I've always been. I was raised that way. I raised my children that way. It is important that your silence, does it mean you're complicit? Of course not. But does it mean that we have to have people in office who will stand up and not be afraid to speak out? Yes, this time more than ever. So in this current culture climate, it is more important than ever to have somebody in there who understands the struggle, who is willing to stand up and to be on the front lines to make sure that hate speech is unacceptable.
All right, great. And we have a question coming in from Robin Witt, and this goes to Deborah. Deborah, legally changing your name and or gender marker can be a costly and lengthy process, and many members of the transgender and non-conforming communities do not have IDs that match who they are. Due to this, voter ID laws cause transgender and gender non-conforming voters to face harassment or being turned away at the polls. What is your position on voter ID laws?
That's a good question, and I had looked into that earlier in some ways. So voter ID laws are important in the sense that it ensures that they've identified correctly the person who's voting, and that no one else will cast a vote under that person's name. But it shouldn't stop anyone from voting. So one option I had explored is if your presentation gender doesn't match the gender on your voter registration information, don't put a gender. You can actually re-register to vote and leave that blank, and that part of the record is removed. So it's a small start, and it doesn't solve the issue of a name perhaps not matching the gender presentation, but it is a start. And there's also a group called Vote Riders that provides a lot of financial support to updating IDs. And so they can help with that issue, but it's a very good question. And it's a balancing act really between correctly identifying voters, but not excluding people. And you know what else should happen is poll workers should never be doing something like that. No one should be harassed when they're doing that. So there needs to be better training for them too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. This next question comes from Christine Krause, and it looks like it's going to Lynn. When I was helping with the Hillary campaign, I went to the Castleberry tax collector's office under Ray Valdez and was shooed off property trying to register voters. Once you are in office, will you work very hard to train and encourage people that register as new Seminole County residents to register to vote? Apparently, their employees are not encouraging and pushing to register to vote.
Sorry if you hear that's my beagle howling. Sorry. That's how you know this is live, and it's really in Harley. Anyway, yes, I also had a similar experience, Christine. Thank you for the question. I was trying to get petitions at the tax collector's office, not in Castleberry, but up here in Lake Mary on Primera Boulevard. And I had one of the employees shoo me away because, you know, there were lots of people there, and I was trying to, you know, ask them to sign the petition so I could get on the ballot instead of paying $9,000 for the privilege of running for office. Well, it turns out that the employees, I think, are, you know, they even, the former occupant of this office even put a nasty sign, not just Ray, but Greenberg as well, put a sign on every door saying the petitions, you know, the people who are out here asking for petitions are not sanctioned by us, and don't let them hassle you, and you don't have to sign it, and like a nasty note on the front door of the tax collector's office. Completely inappropriate. If you are there doing your civic duty, whether you are signing people up for a petition for a statewide amendment, or whether you are asking for a petition so that you have the privilege of running for office in this county or in a municipality around here, you should have the right to stand on public property and not be shooed off. And I think that the staff needs to know that. There was one woman who was so rude to me as the person, she was ushering the person to get a tag or a little yellow sticker for the back license plate. She said, "Don't talk to my customers," or something to me. And, you know, I have a really good memory. And I remember the woman's face. I don't know her name, but I hope that we can have that conversation with the employees at the Lake Mary office, because I want to make sure, because of the way I was treated as a citizen and a taxpayer and somebody just trying to run for office, the way that the employees talk to me, I hope that they don't talk to everyone like that. I hope that there is better training, and I would be the first one to stand up and say, you all talk to me in a rude way. I don't want to ever hear that report back that we in this tax collector's office, because there are 100 employees, there are 6 or 7 offices around Seminole County. So you have to make sure when you do customer training, and that's the #1 job, accessibility to pay your taxes or your driver's license, and you want to make sure that people have access and ease to get in there and to be safe, of course, with the pandemic and stuff. But there is no reason that those customer service people who are helping people get their driver's license or their tag and title should be rude to people or shoo them off ever in any way, shape, or form. So I would, because it happened to me, I would be right on top of that from the beginning. Thanks for that question.
I'm glad to hear you say that, Lynn, because definitely, if you are in any type of service industry role where you're, you know, servicing the public, providing a service for them, you shouldn't be rude to them at all. And I could only imagine if they were rude to you, or in the case of Christine, you know, rude to her and shooing her off property, kind of makes you wonder, you know, how they're treating the constituency that actually comes in there for those specific services of the tax collector's office. So
no question, it has to be from the top down, though. You know, you have got to make sure that that is something that is instructed, that is in the handbook, that is in the human resources, you know, information. You are never to talk to people in that tone. So yeah, you're right. I mean, if it's something that's going across the line, you know, in other words, all different offices, all different problems. If it happened to me, it happened to Christine, it's probably happened to others. So I think that's one of those nip it in the bud problems that we can do. And I would urge people, if they have a bad report, to, you know, let me know about that.
Okay. And we have a question coming in from fellow panelist Deborah.
Oh, good. Okay.
I have a question for Myra about making sure voter registration done with driver's licenses is handled consistently and effectively. I've heard stories of people asking to sign up to register to vote when they get their licenses, but it doesn't go through.
I don't know about it going through, but I do know that when you sign for your driver's license, have you looked at your driver's license signature lately? If that's the way your signature is matched with your voter roll, there's going to be a big problem, because you're going to sign it and they're going to say it doesn't match, and there's going to be a problem. Now, the way you sign for your driver's license, the equipment is provided by the DMV in Tallahassee. So when you look in the machine to get your eyes checked, provided by Tallahassee, DMV, when you sign your name. But that is another one where you can check a bunch of boxes when you get your driver's license that you want to be an organ donor, that you want to register to vote. And they ought to be making sure that this is something that they tell people. Don't just ask people if they want a Florida Gator or a Seminole license tag or a UCF license plate. Ask them if they want to register to vote. That ought to be a priority, and I hope that that would be the case when I get in there. So yes, if there's a problem with the signature not matching, that's a problem. If there's if there's an issue with the people at the customer service window when you're getting your new driver's license, not asking and or encouraging and or making people aware there's a box here to register to vote, and making sure then that those pages get to the supervisor's office. If it's falling through the cracks, huge problem. And I have told people myself as I was standing outside of various offices, they said, oh, I would love to sign your petition, but I'm not registered. I said, oh, that's okay. When you go in there to get your driver's license, you can register in there. So in a couple of weeks, you'll be able to sign my petition, or you'll be able to vote for me in November. And, they came out, and some of them didn't ever say, I said, did you register? And they're like, they came me like kind of a mush mouth thing. And I think that's because the people in there do not encourage those new driver's license people or people renewing their driver's license to register to vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's an issue. And also that something about the process, even when people say they wanted it, it's not always going through. So
yeah, I absolutely think that that's something that has to be coordinated through the equipment and through the two different agencies that are in there. So, yeah.
And Tracy's going to help us get better signature pads, because she's going to be in Tallahassee.
Yeah, that's right.
Just let me talk.
That's actually a great segue.
Go, Tracy.
So up next is going to be Tracy.
All right, everybody. First of all, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you out there. Thank you, audience. Thank you, fellow women. Takes a woman. So here I am. I'm Tracy Kagan. I'm running for the second time. I ran for the State House 29, same district, same opponent in the 2018 election, lost by 1%, 1,500 votes. So we're back. We're back for the same reasons. And I don't think I have to explain those reasons. I think your audience is pretty smart. I think they know what's going on out there. My opponent is not smart. My opponent, I call him a UFO sighting. He's not on the ground. He's not in touch with our constituents. And he doesn't have a finger on the pulse of what's happening, let alone in his district or the state of Florida. I am running, if you want to know the truth, I'm running really. I started to run for Parkland, and I ran for the gun epidemic. That was my initial gallop into action because of Parkland. But the reason I'm really running is because I am running for transparency and inclusion and accessibility. We don't have leadership in Tallahassee that is showing or demonstrating accessibility, transparency, or leadership. We have Republicans that have held the vice in Tallahassee for at least 20 years now, and their whole goal is to satisfy themselves and their own agenda. They do not know what's going on the ground. They do not know that people are desperately in need of health care. They do not know that people are struggling with unemployment right now. They do not know that public education is in jeopardy. They don't care. And I am a regular person. I'm a single mom with 3 daughters, a criminal defense attorney of 30 years, and I am tired of sitting on the sidelines and allowing others to make rules to govern us that benefit themselves and not benefit our people. I'm running for true leadership and accessibility. I want to be that person. I don't want to be, I always thought politicians were on the other side of the fence. You know, they're the other person on the screen. They're not. I get up every morning, I brush my teeth, I cover the gray, and I get out there and I go and I want to be of service to my people. And I want to represent them in Tallahassee. So that's a little bit about who I am. Ask me questions, because I think it's better to get to know me through your questions. What do you want to know?
Okay, sounds good. With that, I will ask, will you sponsor or co-sponsor the Florida Competitive Workforce Act to make it illegal to fire someone, deny them housing, or deny them access to public accommodations because of their sexual orientation or gender identity and expression.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I am the candidate who stands for inclusion, not exclusion. My entire goal is so that everyone is treated equally and protected equally under the law. I'm running against somebody who on his Facebook page and what he did in Tallahassee promotes and protects traditional marriage. Now that's code. Read between that code. Who is he protecting? He's not protecting the LGBTQ crowd. He's protecting traditional marriage. I believe in inclusivity, and absolutely, just straight answer, yes. Next question. I'm a straight shooter. I'll tell you exactly how I stand. And the truth is, I'm not going to run for the Tracy Kagan show. I'm running for the people in District 29 and really Floridians. I'm running because they don't have a voice. We don't have a voice. Look, we have a governor who hasn't even come out and said, put a stinking mask on your face, right? What is going on here? We have people dying every day. We need to put a mask. We need to have leaders that lead by example. And here's the best thing about a leader. Not how long you can talk, not how much you can say. It's all about listening. Listening in any relationship, a love relationship, a friendship relationship, and certainly one of service. The key is to listen. Listen and validate someone and listen to what they're saying, what's important to them. That's really what a good leader is. Otherwise, step off the plate.
I couldn't agree more. The next question coming in from Robin Witt. Tracy, what's your opinion on creating a non-binary gender marker option on state licenses?
I'm for it. I don't see any reason why we couldn't have it. I don't see how it's relevant to be defined being gender by male or female. And I think if we want to be inclusive and we want to give people options, I think that's an excellent option. I don't see an issue with that.
Okay, good. So the next question coming from our caucus, do you support teaching comprehensive LGBTQ inclusive and age-appropriate sex education and HIV STD prevention programs in our public schools?
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing, okay? Here's the bottom line. I think that we need to educate our children. I think our children are a lot wiser than we think, and we need to give them a lot more credit. And I think that we need to educate our children because they're going to get it from somewhere or someone else. And why not get it from the people that know how to disseminate the right information and be there for them? And I think a teacher should be a mentor and a role model, someone that children could look up to. So if we have a teacher who espouses that and stands for that and speaks to that, and we have courses on that, absolutely, I think we should encourage that and have that. You know, here's the thing with public education. Public education is supposed to reach the public. That means all of the public, not a segment of the public, not an elite part of the public, not to exclude certain people of the public. So that encompasses having sex education across the board. Sorry.
Okay, we have a...
You know, you can tell that I'm a litigator. I have to get that last word in, okay?
That's okay. So we have a question coming in from Christine Krause.
Hi, Christine.
So talk to us about charter schools versus public schools.
All right. Well, first of all, I call the Republicans chippers. That's my nickname for them. They want to chip away at all things that are vital and important to us. And one of the things they want to chip away at is public education. They want to give money and take money. Okay, so you have a pot, and in this big pot is money for public education. And they have their big hand in that pot, and they're taking a chunk of it out, and they're throwing it to a charter school that's not regulated, that is for profit, and is not in compliance with mandatory laws. So I do not approve of charter schools that are for profit and taking money away from public education. What you create is self-fulfilling prophecy. So the Republicans can say, oh, public education is failing, it's doing horrible. Yes, it's doing bad because you're crippling it by taking the money out and giving it somewhere else. You're creating the situation. Now, if we have trade schools, technical schools, other options for students, not everybody needs to follow academia. If we had that, then yes, I believe in those schools, but not schools that are for private. You know how many legislators right now serving in Tallahassee have relatives or family businesses that own charter schools and they have their hand in the pie? Yeah, look into that. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. There's a question coming in from Brooke Wilson. Jumping off of that, do you oppose the use of tax dollars for the voucher system in private or charter schools?
I'm going to tell you right now, I do not like, I'm sorry, someone keeps texting me. I do not like the mixture of using vouchers for not for public schools. In other words, there has to be a separation, I believe, of church and state. And I do believe that the money has to stay in public education. Listen, Florida is ranked one of the lowest in public education pay for their teachers. All right. Now, DeSantis just wanted to look really magnanimous and pass $47,500 for starting teachers. Well, do you know what? You have teachers that are working 10, 12, 15 years that are making that. That's just the old, what I call the old shim sham and shell game to make himself look good. That's not realistic. Our public education and our money needs to be kept in public education. So I don't approve of our vouchers being used for schools that are not related to public education and that are perhaps, I hate to say this, a combination of church and state. That's what the Constitution stands for.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right on that. I do want to ask a question that relates to minimum wage and rent control. So as you may know, the current minimum wage in the state of Florida is $8.46 an hour.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Right now, many Floridians are facing, when they go to renew their leases with their landlords, they're facing anywhere upwards from $25 to $75, maybe even $100 rent increase. Sometimes some of those tenants, they have to work 2, maybe even 3 jobs in order to actually afford rent and be able to afford their utilities. Would you be in favor of a moratorium on rent increases, and how would you control, or what legislation would you try to come up with to control the rising costs of rent in the state?
Brandon, everything you talk about is why I get out of bed in the morning and put this tag on and start dialing for dollars and knocking on doors, okay? We have an elitist system right now set in Tallahassee. Okay. We do not have a system for the average person. The average person can't live on $8 an hour. And here's the bottom line. I don't think they can even live on $15 an hour. $15 an hour is what we're trying to get across the board. But even that, when you go to rent a 2-bedroom apartment, and a 2-bedroom apartment is $1,400, $1,600 a month, then you add on your car insurance, your food, your gas, and all of that, the average person cannot make that amount of money. So I definitely feel that we need to have some sort of rent-controlled housing, more affordable housing, and I do believe that there is funding in that $93 billion budget for it. I just think the budget is not being used in the proper fashion because I don't think the priorities in Tallahassee are the same priorities that you and I share, Brandon. They're priorities that somebody else shares to line their fat pockets, not for the average person. So yes, we need to do something about affordable health care, affordable housing, and raising the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. I mean, who can live on $8 an hour? Who can do that? Our children in public education are getting free breakfast and lunch because their parents can't live on $8 an hour. I mean, all the signs are there. Let me just tell you something, what the Orange Man has done. He's made a divisive country, and it's trickled down to Florida with DeSantis, who is mini Trump. And he has created a divisive Florida, right? The have and have-nots, and they don't care about us. And they don't care about us, and they have the power in Tallahassee. You know what would give me the greatest pleasure in my life? To put my fat tush in some Republican seat and get them out and send them packing. That would make me the happiest person in the world. You see this voice? You see how loud I am? I know the law. I'm trained in the law. Get me to Tallahassee. I'm going to really represent the people. I am tired of people doing the talk and not doing the walk. And that's what motivated me to run. So I know that was circuitous and I went in a big circle, but the bottom line is, yes, I do believe that we need to have affordable housing and raise the minimum wage at a bare minimum,
Perfect. Thank you, Tracy. Yes, because absolutely you are right. The link between raising the minimum wage and making housing more affordable, those go hand in hand. If the state's minimum wage is not raised, or if you have residents who are, working a job that's minimum wage or even below minimum wage.
Hey, Brandon, listen to
Uh-huh.
this. We have people right now who cannot get unemployment and are being choked to go to work, even with COVID, and taking that risk. What are the priorities? You know what the priority is to the Republicans? I hate to say it, the almighty dollar. That is their, I don't want to say God, but that is what they answer to, the almighty dollar. Meanwhile, the rest of us are struggling to get by and be healthy. And just really, what does everyone want to do? They want to feed their family, have a good life, and be able not to have that layer of stress that sits on us, because we are under all that stress, Brandon. So, yeah, I agree with you 110%.
Right, and you bring that up, and I actually know someone personally, my neighbor and coworker, whose fiance was having a very difficult time whenever a lot of businesses started furloughing employees, applying for unemployment, through the DEO, and it's just a whole big mess, and we have to try to find a way to get that fixed.
Brandon, I'm running against the guy who is an architect of that legislation, Scott Plakin. He drafted that legislation with Rick Scott to take unemployment from 26 weeks to 13 weeks, to cap it at 265, and to have the only place that you can get it is through a little portal, a little dot and button that you press. You know how many people are denied unemployment? We have the highest rate of unemployment. Florida, I hate to say this, I'm an ex-New Yorker, and my sisters live on the West Coast in California. And how can you live in that state? How can you live there? People don't even wear masks. I only think that maybe God put me here so I can do something good and run for office and make some change.
Awesome. Okay, so we got a question coming in from Deborah. Tracy, what should the legislature do to help Florida get through COVID-19?
Well, first of all, we need to have a leader and we need to have a plan. It would be very nice if we had a plan of action. You take anybody running a company, they would sit in a boardroom, they would appoint committees, and they would have a plan. The first plan would be everybody needs to shelter in place again. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's not happy, but that's the bottom line if we're ever going to contain it. And we have to wear masks if we are going to go out to the supermarket, to the grocery, to the church, wherever we're going, we need to wear a mask. So we need to have some consistency with our law, and we need to have follow through with the law. The second thing is that we're not going to get it on a national level until the orange man is gone. So we need to really think and be smart and stay in place, get tested, wear a mask, and that's all I have to say. At this point in time, until we have something more systematic, like a vaccine, that's what we're going to have to do. I on a funny aside, have my kids wearing a mask in the house sometimes. I'm like, just wear a mask, get used to it. And we practice our own social distancing, when I send my kids to their room. That's what I call social distancing. But anyway.
All right, great.
I hope that answered your question.
All right, great. So at this time, on behalf of the Rainbow Democrats, two of our members, Brooke Wilson and Margot Dixon, we'd just like to thank Deborah Paulion, Lynn Moira Dichter, and Tracy Kagan for participating in this forum, and also want to thank the SEMDEMs as well for their support and helping to bring the candidates together as well.
Yeah, you know, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to meet you and to be on the show. I love an opportunity to speak and reach people, and I applaud what you're doing every day. I applaud what you're doing. Let's do it together, okay?
Yes.
Let's join forces and do it together. Let's take it blue. Let's make it blue. All right, get out there and vote.
Yes, I couldn't agree more, Tracy. With that said, I do want to wrap up, and I do want to offer each of the candidates an opportunity to do a closing statement and pretty much a rallying cry for the election coming up. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with Tracy, since you were the last one.
Okay, my rallying cry is one word. One word should get you off your tush. And that one word is Trump. Okay, that's what I say. I say if we're going to have effective leadership, we have to vote blue from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top. Because the way I see it, in my 58 years on this earth, the Democratic Party is the only party that cares about you and I and people. And right now we are at a crux. This is the most important election of my lifetime. I will say that. And I implore everyone, if not to talk to everyone that they can, put them in touch, get out, learn about your candidates, ask me questions, call me, 407-538-8885. Call me, ask your questions, tell me what you want done, tell me what you want to see, but most importantly, vote. That's the only thing that's going to happen right now and change our world, is to vote, and we need to do it.
Thank you, Tracy. Next up for a closing statement, Moira.
Hi. Okay, good. I always love listening to Tracy. She has been an instrumental part of my journey on the political pathway, and I think
we all inspire each other.
So thank you for all of that. I often find inspiring quotes, and today's quote, my dog has a quote apparently as well. Today's quote ended up being, "We're all in this together if we're in it at all." Whether it's defeating COVID and being patriotic as we approach this weekend of Independence Day, the most patriotic thing you can do is to stay safe and wear a mask. Just so you know, Rainbow Democrats, this is my go-to mask, right? So stay safe, wear a mask, right? Second is stay home, observe social distancing. The best social distance you can do is to stay in your own four walls. And the third thing is to wash your hands. So my rallying cry, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it together. We're going to get elected together. We're going to do it with everybody's help. And again, I apologize for my dog, but he decided it was quiet all through Tracy. And when it's my turn, he decides to howl. I apologize, but I love you guys, and I'm going to mute myself so that you can hear Deborah's remarks. All right.
Good night, Moira. Have a good night, hon.
Your dog is just trying to say hello, that's all.
Your dog's a Democrat,
by the way.
That's pretty funny.
Okay, and finally, Deborah.
Hi, thank you for letting me say good night. Thank you for participating. Thank you, Rainbow Dems, for hosting. I wrote a couple things down while we were all talking. And, you know, I think what we need in politics right now is a wave of integrity. I think we're exhausted from wondering what the motives are and why people are doing things that seem to hurt so much of our society. We need a wave of integrity. And I think everybody on this call could be a part of that wave. I also think, in terms of thinking about the LGBTQ plus community, is that I believe, and I know everyone else on this call does, an attack on any of us is an attack on all of us. Human rights, LGBTQ rights, voting rights, it all goes together. Every voice is important, every human is important. And I'm running for supervisor of elections because I believe your vote is your power. And I want to make sure that every voice is heard in Seminole County. Who you vote for is your business, but to make sure that you have access to voting is my business. And I am committed to do that for you all. So thank you for having me tonight, and you can look up my website, debforelections.com.
Excellent, Deb.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you so much. And again, I want to thank each of you for participating. One thing I do want to mention, and I'm going to speak directly to the attendees that are here as well. Please feel free to visit our website, www.rainbowdemocrats.org. If you are interested in joining the Rainbow Democrats, there is a tab for membership as well. You can go through that tab and look at the different membership types to join our organization. And I also want to implore that you follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we are on Twitter as well. So definitely keep up to date with what we are doing, because we're going to be doing more of these candidate forums leading up to the August primary election. Thank you so much, everybody, for being in attendance, and I hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Have a happy 4th of July, everybody.
Yes, happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th.
Happy
Have a
4th.
happy and
Stay
safe
and
4th of
healthy.
July.
And safe, yes, as in staying at home and binge watching. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
thank you for all those good questions too. It's great. It was so
Yeah,
fun.
awesome. Great
Yes.
opportunity. Nice to meet you.